So you get to the late season, you haven't punched your tag yet, and the rut is starting again. Now what do you do? This is Deer and Deer Hunting TV. When we're talking about late rut, there's some definitions that have to be made here, because for most of the country, there's three stages. There's the regular rut, there's the late rut, and then there's what they call the second rut. And then it kind of gets a little bit convoluted depending upon where you live in the country, specifically in relation to that 35th parallel. That's what we talk about all the time as far as what separates the northern whitetail from the southern whitetail. The regular rut we usually will say is right around late October. The late rut, textbook speaking, would be late November. This is well after, we're talking several weeks after the main breeding phase of the rut. That's when you're going to see a lot of the activity taking place near food sources, and as a land manager, you can use that to your advantage for better hunting. The second rut is that rut in December that we see, and that has a lot of the intensity, but just for shorter periods that we see during the classic part of the rut. Does are bred based off of timing, when those fawns will be born, and that has to do with the pineal gland in the brain. When that is triggered, does inherently know they need to be bred because their fawns need to be born in a certain timing that they're going to be able to survive northern winters. This doesn't really apply in the south because that's when you'll see fawns of all ages, because does can literally breed at any time in the south. That late rut in November is for the does that for whatever reason individually they didn't cue off of that pineal trigger that the first does did. The first does, the healthiest does, are the ones that breed first. Those are the prime age does of prime fawning age that are giving birth. The later ones, doesn't mean that they're flawed by any means, but they're not quite as healthy as the first ones, or there just could be some individual differences there. The second rut that we say that happens in December, normally the preponderance of the females being bred there are doe fawns that were born last year that weren't quite of breeding age during the regular rut, and other does that might have been bred but didn't conceive during that first rut. That's the preponderance of the females that participate in that second rut in December. So I talked about regional differences. If you look at that 35th parallel across the United States, it's not perfectly in line, but it's pretty close in line with the Mason-Dixon line. That's where the north meets the south when it comes to the whitetail range. That's where you see rut activity that isn't as neatly packaged as you would expect for, November 1st or November 5th or November 10th for that classic rut. When you see rutting activity like this in December, in those places, it could mean one of many things. It could mean that is a prime spot for those does to breed, because we do see in southern states a lot of rut activity, a lot of breeding in December. It's not as critical for those individuals to breed on a schedule that it is for northern deer. Some does will come into estrus later just because of their individual characteristics. You can't get past that. Some individuals are different, but for the most part, I would say the preponderance of does that breed later, it has to do with the timing of when they were born or their physical condition at the time. The timing of when they were born normally will refer to doe fawns that were born the previous year. They have to reach a certain weight before they can breed successfully. Other individuals might be influenced by conditions. Drought, too much rain, heat. There's all sorts of things that affect individuals differently, and that can also dictate when those does are bred. So a question I get a lot is, do bucks actually breed does at this time of the year, or is it just some kind of leftover rut behavior that's still coursing through their veins? Well, yes, on both ends. Bucks will breed does during this time of the year, and yes, bucks are always going to be interested if a doe is coming into cycle. The thing you need to remember, however, is not all deer fit into one box. Those individuals, for whatever reason, whether it's a health reason, whether it's an age region, part of the country, or other things like weather that have affected when they breed during a particular year, that all comes into play. And when a doe is triggered and she goes into heat, there's certainly going to be some bucks to follow. The question is, does late season breeding take a toll on a buck's body? I would say yes and no. Yes, they're already run down from the rut. They've exhausted a lot of energy. They've got to make up a lot of ground before they get to winter as far as their health goes. But we see this all the time. I can't say that I've ever seen wide-scale losses by any means of bucks that have bred in December and were too exhausted to make it through winter. Can it affect deer? It can affect their health a little bit. I think as long as they have access to good nutrition, and this doesn't have to be through food plots, it could be through just really sound forest management on your part, or just that you have the deer population levels to a point where there isn't so much social stress on those deer as they enter winter. They get skinnier, but I don't think it's gonna have a problem with them as far as survivability of winter. So what you'll see at this time is bucks will revert to what we call bed feed pattern. Basically, they're gonna find the place where they're bedding, normally near a core area, and a feeding area. That's where land managers can really put the cards in their favor. If you're managing land for hunting, the best way you can take advantage of the late season rut is to have as many groceries there as possible for your deer. And think about that, plan it out months in advance, and have some kind of schedule or some kind of plan as far as what you're gonna have for early, mid, and late season food sources for these deer, if you can provide those things. Food plots are awesome, and we can do that very easily, and that's a lot of fun that comes with being a land manager, is I can plant crops that I can hunt in September, I can plant crops that I can hunt in October and November, and then I've got stuff that's still standing by December and even January, so these deer are showing up, and it's gonna make my hunting prospects better. But I think too much emphasis these days is placed on food plots. Yes, it is fun. It is fun to actually plant something, see it come up, you did that, you provided this. It's a really good feeling. I think a more important aspect, if you're managing land, and especially if you own land, is being really cognizant of what that habitat is comprised of and managing those species specifically. Making sure that that is a deertopia for the wildlife. Basically everything the deer need, and if I do that, I know I'm going to have fantastic hunting all the way through the end of the season.
Coming up on Deer and Deer Hunting TV.
Or some mid-December love.
He was sniffing around. He was looking for some love.
She wasn't exactly hating it either.
No, she wasn't. She was being a big old flirt.
Deer and Deer Hunting TV is brought to you by On the first day of the Kentucky muzzleloader season, contributor Josh Honeycutt heads out with his friend Robert Lee.
We were going to go get in a blind, but we couldn't quite get there, so we ended up having to sit on the ground because we already had deer moving and we didn't want to push any deeper and potentially spook that buck. It started with some younger bucks, some does, and then all of a sudden we heard this commotion up in the timber where that big 9-pointer had went up into earlier when we got there. Then everything broke loose. That 9 pushed that estrus doe out into the cornfield, ran her around, just circling that cornfield, just dogging her, tried to breed her multiple times, and she wouldn't let him. She wasn't quite receptive enough to actually stand and let him breed her. But once that happened, I was like, what's next? We've already got this action going on.
And then we had another buck, probably a year younger, come in after this one, like wanted the same doe, I think. So it was cool watching those two kind of go at it.
It was just a pretty incredible scene, especially for a mid-December time frame outside of the primary rut. This was the second rut time frame. It was just an excellent example of the activity that you can witness while you're out there hunting late season deer. Given that the 9-pointer was the more mature deer, I told Robert to get on that buck, and within just a few minutes he had the sights settled on that deer's vitals.
You hit him back. All right, so Robert just done did it. He done did it, didn't you, Robert?
I did, man. I did. That was some awesome action that happened. We had 3 bucks out there at one time. One was defending a doe, dude. It was awesome. It was a great thing, dude.
There's some mid-December love.
Absolutely, yeah. He was sniffing around. He was looking for some love in there.
She wasn't exactly hating it either.
She wasn't. She was being a big old flirt. But yeah, I'm super excited, super pumped. I shot him a little back, so it's very frustrating. But I shot back. We kind of watched where he laid down. But then from there, we just kind of backed out so that we didn't want to push him, anything like that. It stinks that you have to do that.
Now we're getting out. We're on the back side of a fence where we belly crawled out to the opposite side of the fence we were on, got a behind cover, and then stood up and left. But we're going to give him till the morning just to be sure, because that shot was definitely back.
The following morning, they headed out to find Robert's buck.
Came in this morning, sunrise, so we're trying to, instead of going anywhere he went in, we're trying to go the other way. So if we do jump him, maybe he goes in toward the property instead of the neighbor's property. But got goosebumps, heart's beating fast, but we hope we find a deer.
You got him?
After searching for only a handful of minutes, they found the buck only a few dozen yards away from his original bed.
Looking back, it was just, like I said, the epitome of late season deer hunting and seeing some of that first-hand second rut action. Overall, the late season is a great time to be in the deer woods. You can witness some incredible late season rutting activity that occurs during that second rut time frame. And if you're still packing a tag this year during that same period, I urge you to be in the deer woods, because you just might get to see what we did last winter.
God, just stand right there.